Welcome to the Chase Merrell Podcast. I am your host, Chase Merrell, and we are all about helping people get freed up from what's holding them back so they can build up who they were made to be.
On today's episode, I have my friend Chuck Saylor with me. It's really hard to describe Chuck Saylor in a little snapshot here. I am telling you, you do not want to miss this episode. At 89 years old, this guy's still pouring concrete and doing manual labor like better than most men I've ever met in my entire life. He's a woodworker, husband, dad, grandfather, great-grandfather. Chuck's life has been marked by a lot of small things added up over time that make massive impact. And I know today's conversation will encourage and impact you.
If you want to help us continue to make an impact with this podcast week in and week out, consider joining our new Patreon community. For as little as a cup of coffee a month, you can be a part of helping us get the message and mission of the podcast out to more people more effectively. This is a way that we can come together as a community, and you'll get access to behind-the-scenes stuff, additional resources and content, and so much more for just as little as $5 a month. You can head over to chasemerrell.com and click Patreon to jump in and get started. Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by Frontline Coffee Co. Delicious, bold, and expertly roasted small batch coffee for the everyday American. Frontline is not just about coffee. They're about supporting responders on the front lines, courageously caring for the rest of us. With every Frontline purchase, a percentage goes to supporting the brave men and women who are doing just that. Head over to frontlinecoffeeco.com and use promo code FREEDUP. That's FREEDUP, all one word, freed up, to get 15% off your purchase. Now let's jump into today's conversation. All right, here we go. I've got my friend Chuck Saylor with me today on the podcast. Chuck, welcome, man.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm pumped to have you here. This didn't I didn't know if this was going to work, and I'm so glad that it is. We have a few friends there in Modesto, California, where you're at right now, who helped make this happen from a computer and technology and recording side of things. So shout out to Aaron Perez and Jordan Schlegel, two of my good buddies as well, who helped connect all of this. But man, what a joy.
Yeah, for me too. Yes.
Yeah. So here's what I'd love to do. We're going to get into why you're here on this podcast today in just a moment. But before I do, could you just give people like a small snapshot of who Chuck Saylor is? Like, you know, I'm talking like even if you'd be willing, like your age, if you're married or not, if you how many kids or grandkids or great grandkids you may or may not have, just like who are you in a nutshell, so people know who I'm talking to today before we dive in.
Sure. Just had a birthday a couple of weeks ago. I was 89.
89. Yeah. Oh my goodness. You don't look a day over 70, Chuck.
Next year's the big one. 90 next year.
Wow.
Been retired from the utility company for 36 years.
Wow.
Have 10 great-grandchildren.
Wow.
Keep me busy building rocking horses for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And fishing, of course, you know, the 29th is coming up. That's Fishmas.
Yeah. Fishmas. Opening day.
Opening day.
Nothing like it.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. A carver, fisherman, and that's about it.
When you say carver, are you talking like wood carving?
Wood carving, yeah.
Yeah.
I carved Lindy a carousel horse, a big one. And where'd you get that?
This is yours. This is yeah. I would say this is a small. I keep this in my office here at the church. In fact, it's on the background of my bookcase in every episode of the podcast. You wouldn't know, but it still smells. Oh, it still smells like absolutely fresh cut wood.
Yes.
I actually don't know what kind of wood this is, but oh man, it smells good. But yeah, you have blessed a lot of people with your carving and woodworking over the years.
I'm sure. Yes, I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you still making like chess boards, chess pieces, or anything like that? Are you in bigger scale stuff now?
You know, I make a lot of different things and give everything away.
Yeah.
I just carved a really neat walking stick, and I just finished it when a man walked by my garage. He said, look at that stick. And I handed it to him. I said, it's yours.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. Man, well, so you said 10 great grandkids. Um, how many kids, and then where are you at with? I want the world to know who Miss Lydia is as well, just because I know how much of a gift and blessing she is to you and the people around her. But just a little bit more maybe about your family, and then we'll keep jumping in.
Yeah, my late wife passed away in 1999, and I had two children with her: a son born in 1961, a daughter born in 1964, and well, of course, you understand that excitement about that first birth.
Yes, I do.
How thrilling it is.
It's so thrilling.
Best thing that ever happened to you.
Yeah. Yep.
I thought that for a while, and then I hooked a big trout on my ultralight, and I had to rethink that whole thing again.
Yeah, so you had a new standard that you had to.
Right. Then Lindy and I married in 2000, and we've done everything we wanted to do. We've backpacked in Australia. We've traveled Europe. We've cruised. We've camped in a tent. We've just really enjoyed life.
Yeah. Yeah. And you, so, combined married years, you guys were 40 something years with your late
42.
wife.
I have a combined 65.
That's insane.
Yeah, it is. and you would think after 65 years, I'd have some understanding of women. But I'm just clueless.
Yeah.
We got the COVID last month. I tested positive on the 16th and Lindy on the 18th. I got through it pretty easily, but she ended up with pneumonia.
Yeah.
Very sick at home. When I realized it, and I told her, I said, I've got to get you to the hospital, to emergency.
Yeah.
She said, yeah, right after you wash my hair and give me a bath. And I said, honey, you can't stand up. She said, I can't leave the house looking like this. So I accomplished that.
Yeah.
And got her to the hospital. And then I thought back a couple of years. I should have known this because working in the shop, I cut the end of a finger off. So,
oh my gosh, that's right.
I go in the house and I say, I've hurt myself and I have to go to the hospital. She disappeared down the hallway, changed her clothes, fixed her hair, did her makeup, and I'm standing in the kitchen bleeding in a plastic bag. So I should have known.
Yeah. Oh my God. See, Lydia she's giving you a run for your money. I mean,
oh my goodness. Yeah.
She keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah. And what a warrior and a fighter she is too. Just a fighter for life and things that she's overcome. I mean, the two of you are unbelievable when I think about your story together, even in this like last, or second half of life, or more, how much the two of you have overcome even, with each other is insane.
Oh yeah. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
The lady that introduced us passed last year from COVID, and
wow.
Sorely miss her.
Yeah.
But it all started when I was a member of a Southern Baptist church, a church that I helped build the building in 1980.
Right.
And this lady was a part of that membership, and she was also a member at Bethel. So she knew Lindia and she knew me. And when my wife passed, she thought we should be together. And she was right.
Yeah. And like Lindy was married before
39 years.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys were real close. Both of your spouses were, you're close to that 40 years or so.
Right.
And then he passed.
Right.
Yeah. So here you are in two different churches, but in the same city.
Right.
And this lady, third party, but knows you both, introduces you. Which one of you took longer to warm up to the idea?
Me.
Okay.
Yeah. I hesitated. I had her phone number and didn't call it. And I got a call from this lady. And she said, "What's wrong with you, boy?" I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "You've not called Lindia." And I said, "Well, okay, I'll do it."
Yeah.
And so I did, and it went from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it went from there, like I remember, even just recently remembering some of your story, like it wasn't a very long time. Like you were like, you knew pretty quickly this was the woman, for the next part of your life here, you wanted to spend the rest of
Oh,
that time with.
absolutely. We were married within 4 months. So,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
See, okay. So, and then that was similar to your late wife,
My late wife. Yeah.
right? I mean, from meeting to marriage was a 4 month span.
Yeah. I got discharged from the Navy at Treasure Island and bought a ticket to go back to upstate New York, where it came from. And then remembered I had promised a guy on the ship I'd say hi to his folks in Modesto. So got on a Greyhound, came down here, and got a hotel room at the old Hotel Cavell, and called the number he gave me. His mom came and got me. He said, "No, you'll stay at our house." His sister came home from work at 5 that night. I married her 3 months later.
I mean, so that goes against everything that like standard
yes.
day, right? And yet here you are, with a 40 plus year marriage and a 20 plus year marriage.
Especially with Lindy, because she told her 3 boys, date at least a year.
Yeah.
Nothing less.
Yeah.
And then she marries in less than 4 months.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Okay. So because we're there, because I have a few stories in my mind when I think about things that we've talked about, and just some of the life lessons that you've learned. But there's a lot of age spectrum that listen to this podcast and will see or watch these videos. But there is a younger audience out there too, young as in like maybe under 30, right? 25, some of them unmarried, but wanting to figure out more of that world. What do you attribute? What's some of the stuff off the top of your head and your heart when you think about some of the keys to that long lasting committed marriage relationship? If you could figure it out in 4 months, how did you stay so long? And what are some of the things you'd say, making this is some keys?
I think it's actually a lot of the little things that amount to everything. The little things I do for her, in the winter, I go to bed early. I'm at 8:00, go to bed early.
Yeah.
So I go to bed early. In the winter, I go to bed on her side, so I'll warm it up for her.
Oh, man.
I still put my hand on her pillow to make sure she wakes me every night, so we have that time together before we go to sleep.
Yeah.
I fix her coffee. I just do every little thing I can do for her.
Yeah.
And that's the same as I did with my late wife.
Yeah. Yeah. That little stuff all adds up.
It adds up tremendously.
Yeah.
It might seem strange, but I've never bought Lindy a gift.
Wow.
23 years, I've never bought her a Christmas gift, a birthday gift, but I buy her gifts all the time. It's on an as-need basis or a want basis or whatever. Nothing structured.
Yeah. One of the reasons you're here today is because of the way that when I lived in Modesto, so Holly and I, we got married right after we had moved down to Modesto in 2012. We both lived in I was living at a family's house that went to the church that you were at that time, Bethel Church, which the Elrods, Tom and Jody Elrod, you remember them?
Oh yes, sure.
Yeah. So I was living with them, and Holly came down and was living with Pastor Kyle and Marcia, who are the lead pastors now. They got transitioned in from that time back in 2011, right before we got there. And Holly and I got married shortly after that. And I was quickly introduced to you. So we came down to be the new youth pastors there, and became good friends with a young man friend named Jordan Schlegel, who actually was already on the podcast before.
Right.
And Jordan you were Jordan's and still are. I can't imagine there's not much that's changed. Jordan's like, there's not a manlier man. And it's not just man, like, can go to war and do the quote unquote manly stuff of, what most people stereotypically would say, but you just had a different level of grit for life and also joy for life. Jordan was, you just were Jordan's guy. You always were doing something with him or some project around the church or somewhere at somebody's house. And I think he was the one that introduced us to each other from being at church together. But I could not really understand how somebody, so that's 2012. If you just turned 89, right? It's 2023 here. We are in your late 70s when I met you. I couldn't understand how somebody in their late 70s was doing as much physical work and labor and long hours and strength required stuff on a daily, weekly, monthly basis as you were.
Yeah, I understand that.
Well, yeah. So what? How? Hey, you're 89. You're a strong 89. You're not just an 89-year-old man who's, like the majority of 89-year-old men that are still living out there. You're like an 89-year-old man who could be like, hey, you need something dug up. You need a ditch dug in your backyard to pour some concrete. I can do it like today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
How is that a thing?
It's a God thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's my entire life has been directed by God. I understood that as a child. With all the adversity I faced as a child, I met some wonderful people in foster care. Mom and Pop Smith. Mom went to a little Baptist church in the town we lived in. That's where I got introduced to Jesus, because I didn't have anybody in my life, and he fit right in. I mean, we were buds. And this went on for as long as I can remember. One of the things that I look back on now is I thought I was saved.
Sure.
And I wasn't. And I didn't know that until I met a chaplain after I enlisted in the Navy, and he directly asked me the question. Have you had a time in your life when you invited Jesus into your heart? And I thought a minute and said, well, no. And we took care of that right there.
Yeah.
That was like 1954, somewhere around Japan. And so as tough as things were, I knew that God was directing my life. And there were times when I would say, sure about that, God? This is pretty tough. Yes. So, yeah, it's God directed, and I don't understand my physical capabilities. I'm still taking the kayak out fishing.
Oh my gosh! We got Chuck. You became a really special person in my life in a season where so this was my first season moving out of kind of like my family's home as a young man, right? So I moved to Modesto, 20, had had some experiences where I was out, but still kind of was doing an internship and some stuff up in my hometown, living in my parents' house. And when I got the call to come to Modesto to be a youth pastor at Bethel Church, now One Church with Kyle and Marcia, it was the first step really out for me. Now, very, very different lives, obviously, from where you had a lot of out before you graduated and before you were in your 20s. But for me, that was like, okay, I'm going and starting to really become my own man now. I'm going to be, I'm going to go work in a new kind of way. and I had plenty of jobs before, but this was different. I was going to go get married, and begin to provide for a family. And Holly and I didn't think we were going to be in Modesto, actually too long. We thought to ourselves, man, this is the next kind of just cut our teeth on ministry and get some good experience. And we loved Kyle and Marcia. But we always would say we're not going to probably be here much more than 2 years, because we want to buy a house one day and we want to start having kids. And we don't think we're going to do that, in Modesto. Well, that was and that was kind of the, are you sure about this, God, kind of thing, because very quickly we just fell in love with the people, the community,
right?
People like you. And then all of a sudden we found ourselves, buying a house and having our first child. Right. But, so you were a person that came into that moment in my life, that season. And, I have a great father. I have some great men in my life, But again, I'm stepping out a little bit. My dad's giving me some space. I'm trying to become my own man. And when something's broken or something's not working, trying to figure it out, but also I don't know what I don't know. And you had become a voice, and not just a voice, but a presence consistently that showed up in my life that said, "Oh, we could do that together. We could fix that. We could get that done." And the two biggest ones I'll never forget were you helped me do some landscaping in my backyard. We put a concrete kind of mow strip across the middle of the backyard, and that was some concrete work. But the one that's like stamped on me forever is going to be the refinishing of our hardwood floors at our little house at 1725 Lock Road in Modesto, California. Do you remember that?
I remember that. Yes.
And we spent several days together because it was long days. And then, I think even a weekend or two after, you came back and helped, continue to help me get that thing dialed in. But we pulled up that carpet thinking we're going to be the next Chip and Joanna Gaines fixer-uppers, found some original hardwoods underneath that nasty carpet. And as I started to get into it, I quickly realized I have no idea what I'm doing. And I think somewhere along the way you said, "Oh, that's easy. We could take care of it. We could do that." And I'll never forget, man, standing on that. I've got pictures. I wish I had them with me. Standing on that sander, that kind of industrial sized sander we rented from Home Depot.
Right.
And you were pushing it, and I was standing on the front of it to try to get it more weight because it wasn't doing enough. And that was just an experience I'll never forget. The way you leaned in and helped show me what it meant to be a man, what it showed me, what it meant to be selfless and serve and just spend time. The stories I got to listen to from your life along those projects. I'll never forget them. I'll never forget them.
Yeah. We had a great time doing that work. I remember it. Yeah. A lot of sanding.
Yeah. A lot of sanding.
Yeah,
it was an unnecessarily unnecessarily large amount of sanding, but it turned out beautiful. Like the way that finished product on those floors looked after it was all said and done was pretty incredible. Really, really special.
I've never had any trouble tackling any kind of work. When Lindy and I bought our home in 2001, the house needed a roof.
Yeah.
I hired a company to take the old roof off, and I put the new one on.
Wow.
Myself, every shingle. I had concrete broken out, and I replaced walkways and built walls, and I had a room that was sunken. I raised it up level. And now, of course, I've got YouTube. I can do most anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now there's an unlimited amount of what you're able to do just now that you've got the knowledge of what can be out there.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. See, what's different, though, about our generation and your generation, but also you're an anomaly still for your generation, is that we have all of the access to YouTube, but we don't have some of that hard work, commitment, stick-to-itiveness, don't give up that you've got.
Yeah, there's several areas that we differ.
Sure.
I can think of one. If you get a chest pain, you're thinking tacos. I get a chest pain, I'm thinking maybe tacos, but more heart attack.
Yeah.
And so I look at my watch and say, well, if I'm alive in an hour, it's tacos. So.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Well, I just turned 32 this last weekend, and so I'm thinking a little bit more about tacos now. That hurts me a little bit more than I want it to hurt nowadays. But Chuck, when you think about your life right now at 89, one of the things that's just so impactful about you that almost everybody that comes in contact with you would say, if they've had a chance to really, get to hear something from you besides just the past. Well, even a man passing your sidewalk, that you give him something that you made. Most of the people that you've come in contact with walk away with a similar sentiment that
you really have you really look at life like it's a gift. You really look at life like it's a joy to live. And you don't have this woe is me. You don't have this man, I'm just, the world's going to hell in a handbasket, and I this person, this generation, this church, this. And it doesn't, it's not that you don't have those feelings or beliefs at moments, but it just doesn't come out of you in a way that the flavor that people get when they are around you is just much more positive. And again, the rare thing that I'm trying to identify is I don't see a lot of people in your generation in the bracket of age, almost 90 years old, that are going, you get around them and they're that full of life and joy. I mean, can you tell me just a little bit more of what you think that you would attribute that to at this stage in your life?
Oh, listen, I don't know. I think because of the way I was raised, the awful childhood I had, once I broke free of that, I just had a joy for life. And I've never lost it. It's always been there. I love people. We have a slew of great grandkids. I love being around them. I like making things for them. I like giving people things. I like making people things out of wood and and giving them to them.
Right.
I like working for people. I'll still pour concrete. Doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
It's just who I am.
Yeah. 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 And it's evident. I mean, people in this, that whole concept that you said at the very beginning about like the marriage, like what are some of those keys to that, to healthy and long lasting marriage, about the small things adding up. That's really your life.
That's it.
That's not just the marriage. It's your relationships with people. It's probably, I would even your careers and different things that you've experienced, but you're a consistent small things add up to big impact guy.
Oh yes. Right.
And that's why I wanted you on today. It was just in that 5.5 years I was there were just these consistent small things that actually really for me were big things because of my inexperience in life. But the way I just felt like, man, who am I? I'm this young 20-year-old, 21, 22-year-old youth pastor who's probably, bit off more than he can chew with his first house and trying to do some floor project. And here you are, man, showing up at, whatever in the morning, ready to go and saying, let's do this. And I just felt like, why is this guy giving me this kind of time and work and effort when he gains nothing from this? That was something that marked me.
Yeah. The same thing happened when after I retired, I gave 5 years to Habitat for Humanity. I became the Stanislaus County building superintendent, served on the board of directors. That's giving to the community.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
What do you say to people that would say they have a hard time justifying the world of like, that, okay, here's, and again, maybe you don't have this in part of where, but I know some people do, but how would you speak to it? It's this: if I give like that, I'm going to be without. If whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's resource, energy, but just that fear of that stops a lot of people, I think, at times from being whatever it is, giving, generous, whatever. What would you say to that person?
I guess because growing up, I never had anything. So I never really got attached to material things. Never meant much to me. And it's just very easy for me to give. It's more difficult for me to receive. It's very difficult. I have a huge mistrust of almost everybody from the way I was raised.
Sure.
And it takes a long time for me to get around that.
Sure.
It doesn't come naturally to me to warm up to somebody.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to answer that other than
that's good.
Yeah.
And I think that part of that, the fact that you even have that kind of awareness to know that you have a hard time trusting people because of your childhood and different things, um, even that in and of itself speaks a lot about who you are. Your awareness to know where you are, where you're strong, where you're weak. That's a rare piece to have in this season of life from a lot. And most of the people that are in your generation are going like, this is me. I don't see any of the issues or where areas of weakness, and you all are the problem. And man, you just don't exude any of that. Okay, there's one thing I have one of the Chuck isms,
Yes.
if you will, that has sunk into my soul. It's a story you shared about just a good night's sleep. And I have shared this little story or illustration in several places since I moved from Modesto. You know, Holly and I moved down there in 2012. Then we moved up to Washington, here where we are now, 2017. So we haven't been down there in almost 6 years. We've been visited, but we haven't been living there. But I've shared this story probably 4 or 5 times. And it was something along the lines of how you get a really good night's sleep every night. And I don't know if you even remember what you said, but I have a feeling if I say it, you will. But it was along the lines of like, I go to bed every night with a clear conscience.
Yes.
Yeah.
I still do. I just embarrassed somebody last week with that statement, because they said something about sleeping. I said, yeah, I got a good 11 hours last night. And they said, how do you do that? And I said, I really don't want to tell you. They said, come on, tell me. And I said, it's a clear conscience.
Yeah. But just the power of like, man, I'm going to settle the stuff I need to settle. I'm not going to live with skeletons in my closet. I'm not going to, I don't know. There's something about that as an older man who's lived a lot of life, that statement was it was impactful for me, because it's something that I genuinely, I go, okay, how's my heart? How's the inside of me?
Right.
If the outside of me is unsettled or not at peace, it's usually an indicator of something going on the inside of me. And that's that clear conscience piece that I go, man, I'll never forget Chuck saying that and how important that is. So that's one of them. And then there's another story I'll probably never be able to share on the podcast, but here's what I need to say. I can resonate now with you more because of a recent season in my life. And it was, here's all I'll say. It was the process at which a man goes through a procedure to where he can't have kids anymore.
Yes.
That process, there's a story that I'll never forget. I'm not saying it here, but I'm saying it now. You and I are now in the same boat. And so I just recently experienced that world, and I could not stop laughing because I remembered the story that you shared with your experience. And I just need you to know it brought joy to my heart and a smile to my face as I stepped into that process myself. And I'll just say this, I went fishing in my head.
Go.
Okay. So I just needed to shout that out to you, because that was about a month ago, and I thought about you, Chuck. One of the things I ask every podcast guest is the question around what's something in their life in the past or even present that they would say that has held them back from being who they were made to be, who God made them to be. And how have you overcome that thing, or are you overcoming it now? Is there anything you'd say, man, from the past or where you are now?
Yeah, just like I mentioned, it'd be my distrust of people. And I don't think I'll ever get over that. I overcome it, but it's always there.
Yeah.
It's always in the background.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Do you feel like when you think about Jesus in your life now at 89,
yes,
and just a Christian community, being a part of a church, or, obviously lots has impacted that over the years in different ways. But just what would you say that the value of your relationship with Jesus and being a part of a community of people that help you with that, or keep you in some kind of relationship there, how has that been a part of your life in the later years and where you are even now? Like, what kind of value has that been bringing you when you think about it?
Yeah, when I think about it, without that, I would not be who I am today. I know that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of kids that grew up the way I did that were lost. And it was simply a matter of Jesus coming into my life at a time when it was important, when I was a child, and maintaining that all these years. It's wonderful to see my grandchildren develop a relationship like with Jesus. And I learned something from my youngest granddaughter about prayer. And we think, I know how to pray. The Bible teaches us how to pray. But sincere prayer. She was 9 years old. Her grandmother had passed 5 years previous to that. They were at the cemetery, and my daughter, after they would clean the headstone and talk about Grandma, then they would pray and then leave. And the granddaughter said, "Mom, let me pray this time." And Christy said, "Well, sure, honey." And the granddaughter said, "God, I know you needed my grandma for something, but I want you to know I'm not real happy about it." And I thought, how wonderful is that? If we could do the same thing.
Yeah. Be real.
It would be real.
And
and
genuine. Yeah. That's beautiful. Well, I just want to say thank you, man. Thank you. So 10 or 11 years ago, as I was introduced to you, and you kind of, you allowed me into your life. I knew you don't just, let anybody in like that. You'd help pretty much anybody, but I knew what I was getting at, the opportunity to experience wasn't just help. It was a part of your heart a little bit, and part of you did let me in a little bit. And I consider myself extremely privileged and blessed to get a snapshot of more of the inside of Chuck Saylor, and getting that to be a part of your guys' lives in that season. It stamped on me, and I'm excited to be able to share more of that with my two. I have 4 kids now, but I don't know if you knew that. 4.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But we only had Weston when we were there. And for Weston and Bo, my other boy now, and then Delaney and Joy, to get to just, share pieces of the way that you impacted Holly and I when we were first there in Modesto and first married, is going to last a long time in our family's heritage, because of the way that those small things over time added up to big impact.
Right.
And that really is kind of the story of your life, in a way that is just so beautiful, man. And it's such a joy to get to see your face. And I'm serious. I cannot believe, Chuck, I'm looking at through the screen, right? But I can't, you don't, there's nothing that has changed about your face and your goatee and any of it since 2012 when I met you. And I just don't understand. You are, whether it's the clear conscience, 11 hours of sleep, going to bed at 8 o'clock. I don't know what it is, man, but it's working.
It's working. Yes. Yeah.
It's working. So thanks for taking the time to join me today, and man, give our best to Lindia, and just know from Holly and I, we love you. We're thankful for you, and thanks for the impact that you've made on our lives.
Been my privilege, and we love you guys too.
Yeah. Well, there we go, everybody. Chuck Saylor, the man, the myth, the legend. And I'll tell you what a privilege to get to have him today. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye now.